Welcome back to the Dublo Railway, and in the picture we have an '08 shunter. This is a genuine 3-rail one. I will no doubt be repeating this throughout the video, and please excuse that because I made this video over the space of about 2 weeks. But it's not uncommon to find these having been converted from 2-rail because there's a big price discrepancy between 3 and 2-rail ones. 2-rail ones often don't have any current pickup on one side of the chassis, and that inhibits their effectiveness over points. Anyway, this is a fairly play-worn '08 shunter, Hornby Dublo original. It's got all its steps in place, which is why it's in the picture. Again, I'll go into that a little later. Now, these were a very successful locomotive in real life, I think. There were lots of them made. They're based on an LMS design from the 1930s, and unusually for someone who lives in the Antipodes but runs British models. Obviously, Hornby Dublo outline is British, apart from the odd Canadian venture. I'm able to go and have a look at something that approximates this. A number of shunters were sold to Victorian railways in the 1950s, based on the LMS design, the original LMS design, and the main modification to them, apart from the paint scheme, was that they were built for Irish broad gauge, which is what operates in most of Victoria to this day, 5'3", 1600 millimeters. So, what are these things like? Well, generally speaking, if you buy a 3-rail one said to be in going order, they function pretty well. They're not great. They're not great pullers, but they do the job. There's a subclass of '08s, which I think is '09, which were more highly geared, and because of the speed at which these operate, I often feel like designating at least one of them as '09. Now, I've got about 3 or 4. I may have said that. You're going to see the majority of them operating, maybe not all at once. I can usually manage to run 2 or 3 circuits on my own. But the next thing that's going to happen is we'll repair to the office, and I'll take one of these apart and show you the innards and maybe a couple of other features. One thing I should say is that, in common with my Class 20 diesels, I've reversed the magnet in one of these so that they can run cab first in either direction, and I may show you that if I remember. Anyway, off to the office, and once we've done with that, there'll be some running. Looking down on these 2 Hornby Dublo '08s, you hopefully can see one of the first things that you need to look for when you're buying one of these. It's here, or rather it's not here. The steps are missing. This is a problem with these. These tend to break because of the nature of the moulding here or here, and up here you can see what this thing is meant to look like. This model has all its sets of steps intact. If I turn this one over, you can see another partial break here. So in fact, this has got the back set of steps, but both the front ones have met their maker. You sometimes also need to look for damage on the ladder. There's a little bit there. and price accordingly. The other thing that you need to watch for is that you're not buying a 2-rail model that's been converted to 3-rail and no allowance has been made for the fact that maybe one side of the axles is isolated. So it's not a big problem on straights and curves usually. It's going over points that these things hesitate when you don't have a genuine 3-rail chassis. The bodies for these are fairly plentiful, because these, like the Class 20s, survived into the Wren era with a few modifications, a greater variety of bodies, and some slight changes to the motor to allow for better ventilation. I'll take this one apart. Rather, I'll take the body off. That's a pretty simple operation, very much like the Class 20, same screw, same thread. All very simple. Off it comes, but completely different on the inside to the Class 20. Vertical ring-field motor. These tended to overheat. The Wren models, I think, allowed for better ventilation. A big block of ballast here, because otherwise there wouldn't really be much to these. They don't pull terribly well. I don't run these with big trains behind them. I put a few super detail wagons or a few tin plate wagons behind them, and that's about it. They have side frames which are removable, and there's some spring detail on the side frames. Replacing brushes is easy. This feels substantial pretty much because of all the metal that's in it. It's a metal chassis. This big metal block here is part of that chassis, and the ring-field motor at the back here. Now, having a look at the body, just by way of comparison. So this is a genuine Hornby Dublo body, I think. Comparison to something at the time. Here's a clockwork triangle. So we'll just turn these the right way so that you can compare them. Obviously a much less sophisticated chassis. There you are by comparison. Different moldings. Obviously the ladder is incorporated here. This is altogether much cruder, and surprise, surprise, a set of steps is missing. 1980s Lima, which has been converted to 3-rail. This was done in the 80s when I bought it. Again, probably a bit more detail on here. Hard to say. Nowhere near as good a runner as the Dublo. And the other thing that I want to show you as I'm in here is, in a previous video where I was dealing with conversions from 2-rail to 3-rail, I said that one of the things that I was going to do to combat the problem that I have with one of these 08s, which is that it was originally 2-rail, was converted to 3-rail and sold to me as 3-rail, is that I would do this. Now this is a prototype 3D print of the slave unit for one of the, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these 08s that was converted to do heavy shunting duties. This is the area where normally the motor would sit. Just let me get this into the picture. Now you can see already that we're not bad for height, we're not great for length, and the other thing to point out is that there's no way that I'm going to use one of these chassis to put this body on. I'll find an old Lima one or a Hornby one, some derelict one, because I'm not going to sacrifice a Hornby Dublo chassis for this. But the idea is that we get something like this. Just let me pop this body on. There we are. We get something roughly like this. The person who printed this for me already knows that we've got to add about 1 centimetre here to get the length right. You can see that we're off by, just get that right into the picture, directly under the camera. We're off by about 1 centimetre here. We're going to have to do something about the ladders and some side frames, but other than that, it looks like it's going to be viable. I think that these are a great addition to any Hornby Dublo Railway. They have their idiosyncrasies. They're not tremendous pullers, as I said, and that's possibly down to, it's certainly not the weight, but they tend to get a bit of wheel spin because these wheels are quite slippery. And I've noticed, I've got 3 or 4 of these, I've noticed that they can be a little bit temperamental. As I said, they are prone to overheating, so that's something you've got to watch. So far, so good. I haven't blown an armature, but I know that day will come. Anyway, back to the layout, and we'll run a couple of these around with some different loads behind them, and you can see them in action. Here we have a little run up one of the main lines.